All right, welcome to the We See You podcast. Today we've got Ryan with Home First Lending here. Welcome.
Thank you. Super
You're our
grateful.
first official guest from outside the brokerage.
Oh yeah! Wow, I feel excited.
All right,
Humbled,
cool.
grateful.
Well, we just went over at lunchtime, went down to Montrose Market, grabbed a sample platter. It was pretty good.
Oh my God! I wish we had like a video where we could show like what it was.
We just said we wanted to have someone follow us around today. We're gonna like go scooter later, film another video. It's
Yeah.
gonna be fun. It's
That would have been great. That barbecue, I probably smell like barbecue right now, but it was phenomenal. The fries.
It's a good smell to have though.
Yeah. Those fries, man. I don't know if they had truffle sauce on them or what, but it was good. It was great.
I mean, the viewers right now should be going to Montrose Market to go get that sample platter. It had like steak,
Pulled
pulled pork,
pork.
and ribs, right?
Yeah.
And then like a mountain of fries in the middle.
Listen, trust me. Go to this place and get it. Thank us later. And this is not a paid sponsorship.
Yeah, we're done with the ad part of this now.
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to have Ryan on. You're full of energy. Everyone's starting to notice you with your social media. You're bringing the hype, the energy. I know we've connected a lot of stuff on mindset. And just wanted to get your opinion on a couple of things when it comes to, you know, how you're approaching business. It is hard, right? We've got a high failure rate in real estate agents themselves. I've looked into that because I don't want to hire 10 people and keep one, right? That's not something that I want to do in business. So I want to get your opinion on that, like how you stay motivated. And then talk a little bit about, and this is a big one that I've found out, is like a lot of the stuff in this business we can't control, right? There's other vendor partners we need to trust and build relationships with to become successful. So what's your opinion on that?
Definitely. So the first one was, how do I stay motivated and how do I stay in the right mindset? You know, I heard one time, you know, motivation is like taking a shower. You know, it wears off. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like if you don't take a shower for 3 days, you're going to start to smell a little bit, especially us. We're in the gym. You know, a couple of sweaty gym sessions in the gym with no showers, you'll start to smell.
So those are the stressful days, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, a few stressful days without replenishing your mindset and filling back up your cup could very much wear you out. So
Sure thing.
I think that I'm conscious on filling my cup up every single day. Because it gets tough, man. It gets tough. Like, you know, I like to talk about those shortcomings and those downfalls and learn from those. Even when I'm talking to successful people, I like to ask, like, but what was your biggest mistake? And how did you overcome this? Because that mindset, man, is just, it's everything. So I'm just conscious on working on it every day. So it doesn't fade away.
Good stuff. And then when it comes to being aware of like the failure rate and things like that, what does that ever creep in your mind? Do you ever get like doubt on how do you deal with that? Like what keeps your energy level up? Because motivation, I've heard a lot. I mean, I've heard this and I think it's great. Motivation gets you started. Consistency gets you to where you need to be, right?
100.
Gym analogy. You go to the gym once, you want to see a result, you're going to be pretty upset.
Oh, yeah.
But the motivation got you there because you were unhappy with something, right? But the consistency is really what gets you the results.
100%. So I think it's, you know, I'm starting now to think back of times that I've been in similar situations.
Right.
Because it's like, you know, they're saying this too shall pass. It's like, I've experienced every emotion. I experienced every type of failure, right? So now
And you're still here.
Yeah, and I'm
look
still
at that.
here.
And you're still bringing the energy.
I'm still here, right? So for me, when those moments start to happen, I say, okay, I've been through this before. I started to embrace adversity, where I couldn't say that I always been this person, but for the last, 8-10 years, I've been a person that embraces adversity.
Right.
When it's coming, this year started, just get a little vulnerable. This year started in like the first 3 months, I went through like so much. Like I'm talking about on a personal level, business level, people betraying me, talking about me. Thank God, knock on wood, I came out of all those situations.
This is real wood.
Yeah, this is good. This is real. Like, I had double knock on this.
The real scratches, real wood.
This is legit. Every situation, by the grace of God, I've been able to come out free and clear and good. But I just go back to those moments. I go back to, man, this has happened. I've been through pain. I've been through these things. So, like I was going back to like this year, so much was happening that I lost myself, right? I started to lose myself in the sense of I stopped remembering that I've been through this before. that I know how to get through this, right? And I started to like almost get into that bubble of depression. Like it was hard for my head to get above water because something else would bring me back down. So I just had a aha moment one day because I started to get frustrated with myself. I'm like, Ryan, like you're an overcomer. You don't normally stay in this state. What's going on? And it was just a switch that hit for me. And I said, well, what is the gift in it? What is the gift in this situation? And I just started to look at every bad thing that happened to me and just stop and say, okay, well, what is the gift? There's something in this bad situation that I need to learn from.
Right.
And I even experienced stuff where it happened to me like 2 times this year. And I'm like, hold on. Oh, it's because I didn't learn from it the first time.
That's the key right there.
Yeah, I didn't learn from it the first time. So it happened again. And it's okay it happened again because I didn't learn. And if I would have learned and addressed it the first time, it possibly wouldn't have happened the second time.
Or you'd have been aware of it and corrected it before it happened.
And know how to navigate damage control, right? So I think for me now is just like, where's the gift in it?
Right. No, I love that. And the 2 quotes popped in my mind with that. And it's 2 probably the most influential people I follow on Instagram, social media, that have changed my perspective over the last couple of years, that I think it's important in a business that you can't control so many things and you want to. And, you know, your reputation is based off of you performing, and they don't, you know, and a lot of this, a bad lender, a bad realtor, a bad title person can ruin it for everyone.
Yeah.
And we have a relationship-based business. But 2 of the people I follow, first one is Peter Crone. He is literally called the mind architect for a reason. He knows how to navigate your mind. And you just said it. One of his big quotes is, people and circumstances will be presented in your life to reveal where you're not free.
That's good.
It's good. It's better when he says it.
Yeah.
Because he can back it up. But I do really well with situations as far as, like, if you give me an example, I can explain things better. I know my articulation I'm working on it. It's a struggle for me. It's my weaker point. But when I have people to reference who say the things that I feel, it makes me more confident in speaking it.
That's good.
So that's how I've got here. But that one's really powerful because when you're looking at the word free and you're saying, you know, you're trying to find the gift in it, right? When you're looking for true happiness, another thing that he talks about is if you think your happiness is in the future, you'll never get it.
That's good.
Because you're chasing something instead of acknowledging who you are, where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and accepting yourself for that. So, and that really comes back to your mind being free, like free and clear of judgment of yourself.
That's good.
And if you can, I think personally in this business, if you can, you don't have to totally accept every corner of yourself, but the more aware you are of it and working towards fixing it, the more you can be less judgmental of others. So when they're going through a rough time, you can be there for them. Right.
Oh yeah. So 2 things there. One for me was, you know, you talked about, man, I just had like a brain
I do it too. I'm listening to people talk all the time on this thing, and I'm like, I was with a Wilda, and I was trying to remember a quote from Jay Shetty, and the same thing happened. It was like, it's right there. I had it while you were talking, but I forgot.
Yeah, right when it was my turn to talk,
right,
I forgot. Can you refresh me? What were you saying right before that?
So I talked about Peter Crone and his like situations and people and circumstances happen to you in areas that you need to improve yourself. Like you get triggered by other people, typically for things that you need to work on yourself. Like you see it in them.
Yeah, I got it. You're talking about when you kept on about not judging yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like the other day, I had to literally stop and be like, Ryan, you're human.
Yeah.
You're human.
Yeah.
It's okay to...
Nobody's supposed to be perfect. I think it's good.
Okay. Yeah, like, and I had to tell myself, like, I'm just human, bro.
Right.
Like, you know, it was something silly that I was working in my mind. Like, I just started to, like, let it eat my mind. And I'm like, Ryan, you're human. You learned about it. You're aware of it. Don't do it again. You live to see tomorrow. That's it.
Right.
But so many times we're so in our head. And then we're comparing. You know, we talked about this outside. Is like, you know, comparison is a thief of joy, right?
Yep.
Like, you know, comparing yourself to people around you. And I've always had that double-edged sword where, thank God, people love to be around me. And I attract amazing people. My friend circle is ridiculous. Like, my tight friends, one owns 11 restaurants. One owns 2 hotels. One owns a mortgage company. Like, this is my best friends.
Yeah.
So there's times where I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm looking around like, holy cow. Like,
I don't own 12 restaurants. What the heck? I'm a failure. Yeah, it's easy to say that, right? That judgment can creep into anyone.
And that's where, like, what helped me, I used to be very incompassionate in the sense of I didn't believe in depression or suicide. For years, because I was so optimistic.
Yep.
I'm like, no, that's bullcrap. That's BS. Depression is no. Suicide, no. I was super judgmental against that until it happened to me. In 2014, I went through the worst period of my life. I almost lost my house, my first house that I bought. Here I am, 24, thinking that I'm big man. Yep. Bought my first house, ego, right? My ego, my pride. Yep. Oh, I bought this house. I'm about to lose it all. And I started to fall into depression. And I came out of that, and it took me a while, but that's when I started to have a heart. So now when people came to me, I'm like, oh, I feel depressed, or I'm having these suicidal thoughts. Now I could come from a place and sit down and like, oh, listen, hold on. Let's talk about this, and I understand it.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is it goes back to people and circumstances reveal where you're not free, right? You don't understand that side of life. I've been through something similar, but not personally. It was with someone that I loved. And unless that person was in my life, I would be the same way you were. I'd be the optimistic person that says, why are you depressed? Depression is just the fear of the past repeating itself. And it's not happened yet. You're creating and it's true. It's literally true, but as you tell someone that's depressed that, they're not going to receive it that way. It's going to just amplify the problem.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to navigate that and talk about it. I'm not perfect at it. Yeah. You're not supposed to be perfect at it. That's the key, right? You're not supposed to be perfect. If you were perfect, you would have no reason to be here. Like when you achieve your version of perfection, life is done.
And I want to touch on something that you just sparked when you were saying that is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage is a huge one.
And it's subconscious too.
Oh yeah, subconscious. Like I'll be vulnerable. I'll talk from a place of me. Like I've self-sabotaged myself in situations, and a lot of the times it comes from judging yourself. You judge yourself, and you create this storyline in your mind, and you almost like go through with it and sabotage yourself when maybe that person wasn't even thinking about you, or that comment wasn't even coming from a place.
Oh man, we can go through 3 hours of making up stories because that happens to everyone. Makes their own stories up from their own perception. And before I forget, I do want to circle back to the other thing you were talking about was confusion and frustration, right? Like everyone goes through those patches. I heard the best quote about that really set me at ease anytime I'm confused or even stressed is confusion and frustration are two emotions you have when you're about to learn something new.
That's good. That's really good.
If people that know me, they know I'm an optimist. They know I'm positive. I don't always show up happy every day. I usually I'm pretty neutral, and they'll know that's a pretty key word for me in the office is don't over celebrate your wins, check your ego at the door type thing. And also don't define yourself by your failures. Again, if you fail, it's just a chance to get up and learn, grow some more, right? But when it comes to learning something new, like the biggest thing is you can only get to the next level if you learn new things. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same position. Most people that are working on themselves don't want to be in the same position, right? Some people, like, I can tell you 2-3 years ago, I didn't have to grow. I would have been fine. And I was just at peace, if you will, with where I was at in the business. And then the business grew more and more and more, just like not uncontrollably because we did it in a strategic way, but I didn't advertise to say I need to have 22 agents by 2022. Yeah. Like that's not something that I advertised. I literally started the brokerage, did it the way I wanted to do it. A really good friend of mine for a long time was like, hey, Matt, I see what you're doing. I want to do the same thing. Friend is called Brandon. Nice. The reason we have this set up for the podcast.
Shout out to Brandon.
Shout out to Brandon. And then after that, it started to just kind of snowball. And we've hired people that haven't worked out. And we talked about this earlier, that it's so hard in this business to think you're doing something wrong if one person doesn't like the way you do it. But you got where you got to by doing how you did it, and it attracted 22 other people. And I think maybe 4 of them haven't worked out for us. And they've gone on to do different things, either not real estate related, or they've gone on to do real estate in a different model. And that's what fits them best. And that's okay, because there's different models in real estate, different models in mortgages, different opportunities in companies for a reason.
Yeah.
Because people like to operate in different ways. People can be successful in different ways.
Different structures.
Doesn't mean ours is right or wrong overall. To me, it's the right way because that's the way I like to do it. Doesn't mean that the other person that's selling twice what we're selling is doing it wrong. Just means that their way, that's the way they want to do it.
Yep, it works for them.
And it's just really cool to see in this business, like anytime I'm frustrated or stressed now, I'm like, okay, this is taking me to the next part because I've trusted it for this long. Why would I stop trusting it now?
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier is like, you know, it's setting you up for like that future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that I looked at it this year is like, man, like my first 6 months of the year came with so much trials and tribulations that, hey, I think my next 6 months are about to be, I'm up for a ride, right? Like that's just how I look at it. Like I was telling my sister, I'm really close with my 2 older sisters, and I was telling her something and she got so mad, like it's something that somebody did to me. Mm-hmm. She got so mad and she big sister and she wanted to protect me. And I'm like, shit, like it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like it's okay because all this means is that there's fruits coming to me. There's blessings coming to me.
Right. When
you go through things, like you said, it's setting you up for that future. So I think don't get lost, especially my agents. I work mostly with a lot of newer agents. I do boot camps, mindset. I'm training with these agents and they just get so caught up in their head and stuck in the moment when if you just have to look a couple of steps ahead, it's like, we'll get through this and it's going to be okay.
Right. And I think with your energy and attitude, what we were talking about earlier, like how do you maintain it? I think if you watch this podcast, you can see the definition of the attitude of gratitude.
Yeah.
You're grateful for the storm you went through. You're grateful for the friends you have that are successful, that you're surrounding yourself with, that is your support system, that are doing good things. Instead of, it's very easy to flip that around and look at it as like, I don't have that. Why don't I have that? I need that. We've been friends for a long time. What did they do? Why do they deserve it more than me? And those are the questions that are, I call it ask yourself quality questions. If you're asking yourself those questions, are they quality questions? Why are you upset about it? What's triggering you? Why are you mad? Like if you go down any path and you don't have a resolve and you ask questions, wherever you get stuck is where you need to work. It's a really cool, try it at home. Doesn't matter how trivial it is. My kids won't do their homework, whatever. Just start asking yourself questions. And where you get stuck is usually if you ask enough questions there and you can't find the answers for it, that's where you need to do some work.
That's good.
It's pretty eye-opening and it gets exhausting, man. Like hard conversations all the time is exhausting. So balance is always key. You have to go do things that fill your cup.
Yep.
Right? Like your hobbies, for me, it's the gym. I've neglected golf. My golf game's probably horrible, but it's really hot, to be fair. So I'll start picking that back up September, October, and balance is key. I don't have to go to the gym 6 days a week. I can go play golf twice a week, go to the gym 3 days a week, and still be happy with myself, happy with my body, happy with my efforts, enjoy doing what I like to enjoy doing.
I love that you said that because somebody asked me the other day, like, oh, you haven't been posting as much and like, thing like why not? And I was like, it's just a season where I'm just a little bit selfish with my energy. Mm-hmm. Like I'm pouring it because the first 6 months of the year, I poured so much of myself into people and whether it's let down or certain things, I just given out so much that I'm telling agents when I'm coaching and stuff, it's like, pour back into yourself, right? Yeah. Especially, my mothers, you have kids, you have husbands, and then when I see it with my sisters, that becomes their identity, right? They're building the family and they're taking care of the husband and they start to lose themselves. And then that reflects into their business, right? Because I was telling one of my close friends this, he's kind of going through something and I'm like, bro, what do you do for yourself? Mm-hmm. Like, do you take, you have kids, you have a wife, I always see you giving, I always see you loving, like, what hobby do you have for you?
Yeah, the sense of identity is key.
Yeah, what are you doing? Because sometimes, man, you need an hour, 2 hours to go and clear yourself and come back to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's good, is like pouring in and loving yourself. And
setting boundaries. Yeah. That's a big one. In business, at home, hobbies, like the balance. Everyone knows balance is key, right? They've always heard that. But define it. Again, ask the questions. Am I balanced? What do I like to do? Like you brought that up for your friend, but it's nice to have friends like that. We don't always have those friends when we need them. So when we work on ourselves, it's more along the lines of how can I be a good friend to myself? And then say, what do I do for me? Like, why am I upset? Why do I feel depressed? Why do I feel like this? And it's hard conversations to have with yourself. Most therapists, if you watch Ted Lasso, we're big fans of Ted Lasso. If you haven't, you need to watch it.
Brandon told me about Outside. I'm hooked. I'm going to watch it.
So, in the second season, they bring a therapist in, and she says, the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first.
Oh yeah.
And it's nice to, here at the office, I feel like we do a good job of balancing that because personal does come into your business, right? Like if you're going through something personally, you can't show up 100% for business. So it's not like you have to leave all your personal stuff at home. I think for us, really, it's balance. It's understanding that if it's affecting your performance, I follow Simon Sinek in those performance-based categories, and he'll say, like, when you have a conversation with someone and you bring them into your office, hey, your numbers are down for the second quarter in a row. What the hell? Like, they're going to be like, well, I'm going through some personal stuff. We'll leave that shit at the door.
Yeah.
And you're like, and that doesn't feel good, like, you don't understand what I'm going through at home. And everyone's going through something. So I get the alpha mentality of like just button up and get it done. And it's not healthy.
No. And one thing that I love that you said is boundaries.
Yeah.
That's something I had to learn because...
Everyone has to learn boundaries, man. And it's a constant learning cycle.
It's
and
big.
It changes.
Because it's boundaries from your boss, your company, boundaries from the people around you.
Your loved ones. Yeah.
Family is the most one.
The family's the big one because they pull on the heartstrings a little bit more.
They'll try to pull, So that's one thing that I had to tell myself is like, I almost have to create boundaries with my energy, with my time.
Yeah, if someone sucks the energy out of you, you can't be yourself. And if you're not yourself, your business is going to suffer. And it's crazy because the flip side to what Simon teaches you to do for, evaluating your employees or in our self-contractors is like, hey, your numbers have been down for the 2 quarters in a row. Is everything okay? Like that is it's the same thing. It's just hey, is this a performance-based thing where you're just mentally checked out? You're basically trying to get to the source of the problem.
What's the root? Yeah.
Yeah, what's the root cause? And it might be like, yeah, man, I'm getting divorced and this is happening and, I might not have my kids or whatever. And that's hard. Do I expect you to show up and hit your numbers every month in that situation? No. But there's again, the balance of that is, okay, well, what can we do to help support you through this time? And how can we plan to get you back on track where you want to be? That's the big thing in our brokerage is, a lot of the agents that have come here are newer, so they don't know too much different. But the ones that have transferred over to us from different agencies, they almost have this like deer in headlights look at me when I'm like, hey, what are your goals? And what do you mean? How much do I have to sell to stay here or to have a desk or to pay this fee or to do that? And I'm like, we don't have that. I built this myself. I feel like it worked for me and I had nobody telling me what I had to do. It was completely self-motivated, which is hard because you've got to figure it out and it takes a long time to get there. But we've created like I don't want to say a shortcut, but more like a fast track version of that where, hey, here's what I learned at this step. Here's what I learned at this step. Here's what I learned at this step. I've been in your shoes. It's going to be okay. You've got to stick through it. This is what to expect. This is what you need to do next. This is what you're going to go through. So it's like and every agent's different. Like, hey, Matt, I want to make this much money. Okay, this is what you got to do. You got to sell this many homes a year. This is what you got to do. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I don't know if I can get there. Well, I guess you can. I know you can get there. You definitely can get there. It's how much are you willing to put into it, right? It's always the same with, I want a 6-pack and I want to be the biggest dude in the gym. Well, how much are you willing to go 8 days a week? Well, there isn't 8 days a week. Well, you're going to have to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Figure it out. Make 8 days. Like, go twice in one day. Like, you're going to have to do those things. You're going to have to put the candy bar down. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to go to the sauna. You're going to have to spend a lot of time. And most people aren't willing. They know what they want, but they're not willing to do the work to get there.
Oh, 100%.
And that's why this business has that, 9 out of 10 failure rate almost. It's like 87% or something.
No, I love that. And, you said something there that made me think, it's funny, women taught me this, but it translates to business is that, I never had much girlfriends, right? Like I just never been a really girlfriend guy. I guess I'm afraid of commitment. But the girlfriends that I did start to have.
This is a line from Ted Lasso. I can't wait to unpack that with you.
Yeah. So
you'll see that when you watch it.
Yeah. All right, so it's funny because, I started to learn so I had my first girlfriend that I considered girlfriend for 7 years, right? And then when I went to the next one, I thought that I would do the same similar things that I did with the first one with the second one, right? And I thought that, I loved it. And basically what I quickly learned is that everybody loves differently. Everybody accepts things differently, and I learned it with women, but it transfers into business, right?
Yeah.
Even with accounts. I manage roughly 10 brokerages accounts for our company. Every account is different, right? There's some
they have a different love language. They have a different way, different needs, different operating systems.
And that's hard for us. Like even my partner and Zach, we're guys, right? Yeah. So maybe if I have more of a female team, it's harder for me because maybe we're not as empathetic. Maybe we're not as much gift giving, right? When the little details that we could bring them a little Dollar Tree pen and that's their love language, but we're just not doing that, right? So I'm learning to love everybody differently and meet everybody where they're at. So with your account, there's some accounts that they don't want the classes, they don't want the stuff. They just want, hey, when I call you, pick up the phone, pre-approve my client. That's it.
Right.
There's other accounts where I'm not gonna get any business unless I'm hanging out with these people. I'm building relationships. It's solely relationships. Where other people, they don't even care to know who they're working with. They just close my deal. So that's something that I have to learn, like approach it different.
No, that's huge. And I want to go to the fear of commitment is a big one for me because I saw I've always been the opposite of that. I've wanted to commit. So for me, it's interesting, right, to see different opinions. And one of the guys I follow, again, was very vulnerable. He was one of the first guys I actually followed. His name's Kerwin Ray. He's Australian motivational speaker. And I saw a tiny clip on Instagram of him, which is what we started to do now. So I'm imitating him. Like I want to do that stuff. I want to help pass on that gift that he gave me. Really, he opened up the avenue for me. He was like, don't chase the money, chase building relationships and clients, and the money will follow you versus you chasing it. Because it's just like a different mindset, just a little mindset shift. When that happened, I was like, oh, I got to follow this guy. And I went down this deep, dark, all of his YouTube videos, and I found one of him with Peter Crone, which is now why I follow him. And so I see this masculine Australian dude breaking down this guy like, hey, I've got this. It was called like peridermal dermatitis. I don't know what it's called. And he was very open with it. Like, yeah, it's just an itchy rash. It happens from time to time. I feel like it's when I'm stressed. I'm trying all this holistic ways to get rid of it. And so Peter's like, well, let's talk about it. And so he starts telling about his life. And he's like, well, my parents separated when I was 6 months old. So I've had a commitment. Like he was aware of why he had his commitment issues, right? Super smart guy. And Peter goes, that's interesting. He's like, what did you just said that you were scared to commit because your parents separated when they were 6 months, right? And you're like, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, so you were trying to get it right? He's like, yeah. So that means what your parents did was wrong. And he goes, I guess so. He's like, all right, I'm going to ask you a question. Answer is yes or no. Was your parents separated at 6 months old wrong? He's like, 6 months? No. Like, so he's like, so you've been going through life for 38 years thinking that you have to get it right because you don't want to get it wrong. Whereas if you were just to look at this and say, that was the situation that happened in my life. It is what it is. It wasn't right or wrong. You now leave from, I've got to get it right, tense, like just tense, right? Feel the tension. And you could see him just like relax. And the next day, this was just like gone. And he's like, well, and I don't know who believes in what, but he's like, you're a fire type. And that shows up through the skin, blood. He's like, yeah, I've had a couple of, what are they called? Like blood clots, basically. He's had that issue. He's got a big company, right? He's a big, strong guy that works out and has a lot of stress. And so I watched that and I was like, man, that's super cool. Like he just unlocked this guy, like just a turn in the brain made this guy, it changed the course of his life. That stuff's what keeps me going. It might be a little silly to say that, buying your first house can change the course of your life. But and I don't know your situation personally, but if I set up my first time home buyers in 2013, 2014, 2015, and I educate them on homestead and I make sure they get a good loan and payment and everything, like things happen and they're out of your control, and you have to say that it's not always going to be a positive output is not always positive outcome, right? And I've helped people going through bankruptcies and stuff, but the majority of my clients, I feel like they're in a better place now because I give them the information as first-time home buyers. They've sold their house, bought another one, upgraded, whatever. Most of them are in the really good position where they wouldn't have been if they didn't buy that first house.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them had a lot of questions about buying their first house or doubts, right? And I just use my personal journey as a reference to them to say, hey, I bought my first house for $135. I sold it for $245. I bought my second house for $250. I've added to it and stuff, but at the end of the day, probably the majority of the wealth I've built has been through housing. And I think that's the same for my clients. And being able to positively impact them and leave them with a cushion or equity, a buffer, something to see, something to be grateful for. I think the more things you have to be grateful for, the easier it is to be grateful.
100%,
Right?
100%.
And then when you lose that, it's easier to say, okay, well, look, I've had that before. I can have it again. Still keep that attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, I love that. You said something that guy was saying, like chase relationships. Like my brand, New Rich, that's what it's literally about.
Yeah.
Because it's like I thought, I grew up in Section 8 communities, growing up projects. So when you're in those environments, you're always looking at. I remember we lived in Ugali. It's like a little area in Melbourne, Florida. We lived in these little Section 8 buildings, and I remember Palm Bay. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but Palm Bay is like a city over, and Palm Bay was being built around this time. This is, 20-something, maybe like almost 20 years.
Don't
50.
date yourself.
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I'm like, geez, man, I'm getting old. This was a while ago, but this area of Palm Bay was starting to get built, and like it was the thing. We're like, oh, we got to make it to Palm Bay. Like
Right.
Palm Bay is like this, it was the end all be all, holy grail, new houses and stuff, and we would always like, okay, we got to get money and go to Palm Bay. And eventually we did move to Palm Bay. But I ended up meeting my first mentor. And it was always like, okay, I need money. I need to be rich. And rich is going to fix everything.
Right. It doesn't.
Oh, my gosh, it doesn't. It's worse.
You need to fix everything to become rich. If anything, right? It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's completely the other way around. So then I meet my first mentor. Shout out to Mr. G, Irish, New York, retired cop.
Whoo!
Yes, an Irish retired cop is my first millionaire.
That's Spitfire.
Mentor. This guy, man, he's a savage. He'll make you cry out of joy and pain in the same sentence.
All I can picture is Conor McGregor running his shoulders right now.
This he's a savage.
Yeah.
But he built me up. But when I got with him, I realized that his wife had passed away. His son killed. The way I was able to build a relationship with him was because I got a job working for him, but I was working all day. So what I would do is I would wait for my mom to get home. And those people that see me cook, I learned how to cook because I would get home before her. So at this point, everybody left the house. So I would get home before her. I would cook for her so I could get her car when she got home, right? I've always been a chess player, right?
Motivation.
Yeah,
I like it.
so I fed her, I would take her car, and I would go to Mr. G's house. This is after work. And this is the richest man that I knew at the time, and he would sit there with a cigar and a drink by himself in a mini mansion. Right? So I was a very frugal guy. I'm glad my first mentor was frugal, so he taught me that way of making my success. But he would literally sit there in this beautiful house, pool, decked out porch, and smoke a cigar by himself. And in my times being with him in those moments, I started to be like, okay, maybe I don't want to be rich. Because if this is rich, this is lonely. This is lonely. So that's when I started to think, and I started to okay, well then what is it? And I realized, okay, well if I could be rich with energy, motivation, relationships, I'll always be okay. I'll always bounce back. But now if my richness and my happiness is solely based on money, I'm always going to be lonely. And I seen him and I seen my dad. I didn't talk to my dad for like 15 something years. And when I look at it, we had a man-to-man conversation with him. I'm like, I don't even blame you. As a man, I understand now, maybe at the time I did it,
right,
that you dealt with child support stuff at the same time your business is $1 million in debt.
Right.
And you're trying to stay afloat and family, and it's like, okay, let me focus on just staying alive right now.
Right.
So I just say that to say, man, in this business, especially for my agents in this business and people that are listening, it's like the slow game, you win.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's a marathon. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we're trying to rush and we're trying to do things solely for money.
Mostly based on money, comparison. I want that. I feel less than because I see what they're doing.
You're looking at people, you're like, oh, especially in real estate. Oh, this person closed this person closed that. Mm-hmm. You're going to drive yourself crazy.
And social media just 10x's all of
that. Oh man, because everybody's rich and famous on social media.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. Yep. So run your own race.
We talked about that earlier too, like the social perception versus the reality.
Oh.
Like, I hate with a passion the phrase fake it till you make it. And that's what everyone used to teach. Some of them still do in this business. And I think if you're authentic, I actually learned this from my aunt. She was one of my first like luxury clients, and she was frustrated with a couple of the things, and it was something to do with the pool heater wasn't working, I think, or it didn't have one. And it said it did, and we'd done an inspection, and obviously it wasn't on there. So we were battling back and forth. And at the time, I think this is 2018. I was like, hey, this is a big deal for me. I don't mind paying for a a pool heater for this house to make it go through. I'm still going to make a profit. I can socially share it. It'll get me into this new level that I need to get to. And as a family member, she said, no, absolutely not. You can't pay your way out of this. They need to pay for it, and I'm not buying the house. And it like got me right in the heart. I was like, no, I can't lose this. I can't. And it was it's surface level, right? Yeah. But at the time, I'm like, I can't fail at this. It wouldn't have paid a bill or anything. It was just like, I knew I needed it for the next level. And this other agent on the other side was like, I'm paying a referral and I'm getting less than you and I can't do this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know if any of that was true. I just said, man, I'm sorry. She told me she ain't buying it unless she has a heater for the spa. And it says it in the MLS. I hate to tell you this because I want to pay for it myself, but we can't close if it doesn't have one. Guess who got a pool heater?
Auntie got a pool heater. Huh?
And she told me, she's like, and she also taught me, like, if you don't know something, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned that the faking it part, people can smell the fakeness. They can also smell authenticity.
Yeah.
And confidence, not ego, but confidence. They can sense someone that's trying to sell them something. The other analogy that I hate, because people used to tell me I was a good salesperson, like, oh, he can sell ice to Eskimos. I would never sell ice to an Eskimo. They don't need it, right? So I understand the compliment, and I told you about I'm a hard compliment receiver because I don't like it to get to ego, and that's why. But in that scenario, it's almost like a thing that I brush off because I understand where the compliment's coming from. The intention's good. And now that I've done the work on that, I don't judge them for making me look like a sleazy salesperson because that's how I receive it. It's more along the lines of, no, he's really good at his job, which is sales. And that's the only analogy I've ever heard that makes sense.
Use it, yeah.
Right? But no, at the end of the day, I'm not selling another house to someone that doesn't need another house or selling an investment home to someone that can't manage an investment portfolio or isn't ready for it. Mm-hmm. I've had that conversation a million times with people that are like, well, I've watched Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he said never to sell my house. Or, who's the other guy? Everyone knows him.
Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. You even knew. You even knew who it was. But saving money and do it like I have to do it this way because that's what they said. No, there's not one right answer for everyone.
A million ways to get there.
You know how many people would be heartbroken if their first house is trashed by a renter and they walk back into it? They'd be so heartbroken that they'd probably not be able to. It could affect them mentally. They could not show up to work. They might lose income over it. And then what's the good in that? Yeah. Just because someone told you need to do that for financial freedom. Is it a great tool? Absolutely. In a perfect scenario, if you wanted to make money, you should move every 2 years, buy a new house, and keep your old one. Mm-hmm. That way you keep buying in primary rates, and you got no investment rates. You got all these loans, low interest rates, making more money than you're cash flowing like crazy.
Yeah.
After 10 to 20 years. And you never have to work again in your life. But there's only a certain amount of people that are ready for that mentally. Like we said earlier, rich is subjective.
Yeah.
Right? Every agent here, if I ask them, what's rich to you?
Oh, it's going to be
It'd be a different answer. And most of the time it goes to money. But I will tell you this. There's probably half the agents in here that would say, because I feel like we have a different culture, it wouldn't be money-based answer first.
I tell people I own my company. It's like around 2015, I opened up a marketing and branding agency, and I started off on fire. Like, out the gate, I just did really well.
That was the motivation.
Yeah, like I started out just on point. Like, I think at my time I was making like $100K working, and I got it to like $80K in contracts. So it was like a 20 grand difference, but I was working for myself.
Yeah.
So I came out the gate. It was great. But what I did was, it was a contract. So it was like 3 months, I'm going to build your social media platform. 6 months, I'm going to do this project. So it was more project based. So this was my first like big entrepreneur experience was, you hunt, kill, eat. So I went out and hunted, killed, ate, but I forgot to repeat the process.
Yeah.
So I forgot to go get more clients now. So now I go into my second year. I'm down to like 3 clients. I was making the least money I've ever made in my life. However, it was probably some of the best times of my life.
Yeah.
I still was, because of my new rich mentality. I had the relationships. I had the connections. I would go to Magic games, soccer games. I'm at every sporting event free. Now, maybe I didn't buy the tickets. Maybe I bought the first round of drinks because I never want you to be like, oh, Ryan came out. I've never been a moocher, right? I never have a reputation for a moocher or latching on to things. But I would go, and maybe it would cost me $300 if I went myself, and it only cost me $40, $50 for some drinks, right?
Yeah.
But I was still doing things. I was still, everybody probably thought that I was still rolling in the dough, but I wasn't. And it's just one of those things where money does not, thank God that he taught me a lot of things early. It doesn't, it's a good down payment, but it doesn't define me at all.
And I think to wrap this up, I want to stay on that key with what you said, the hunt, kill, eat. That's what I call the roller coaster, right? You've got I got 2 closings, and then, oh no, nothing's happening. Now I need to prospect again and back up. Oh, I got another closing. Oh, nothing going on. If you can figure out how to stay neutral in a lot of that and just say, okay, how do I not repeat that process? So while I've got things in escrow, I need to be prospecting so I stay up here, right? And it's not going to be a straight linear line. We have 2 closings a month every month. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in this business. You might go through a period where it does happen, or you might go for a period where you have 5 or 10, and then you have none for 2 months. And you've got to really be disciplined with mental strength with your money, right? Because again, you don't want to go into that, lion just killed an elephant and it doesn't have to work again for the rest of its life. It's not going to happen. They're going to get hungry again. That meat's going to get bad, and you're going to have to go hunt again. You can't just forget to hunt. So I think that's a big key that the viewers can take away from this. No matter what their job, it doesn't have to be real estate or mortgages. It's anything entrepreneurship wise. You're going to fail. And that's a way to learn and make sure when you repeat the process, you don't do it again. Yeah. The only way you can really fail is if you stay down, don't learn.
Yeah, you don't learn from it, and you just keep doing it and doing it again. That's insanity.
It. And it's not. Yeah, it is. It's literally the definition of insanity, like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Yeah. It's literally the definition of it, or expecting a different result, should I say? But yeah, it's strange, but I appreciate you coming on.
Definitely.
It's been a good talk. Hopefully the viewers took some keys away from it.
I think it was great, man. Me and you, we have a natural flow, so it's awesome.
You ready to go record another video?
Let's go, man. We're on one today. We had the best lunch today. Now we're gonna go do some reels. So
guys, stay tuned for some mortgage updates. We got a cool little program coming, right?
Let's go, man. So pay attention to this guy. He's taking over when it comes to social media. I think actually, aren't you nominated for up and coming?
Yeah, that was nice. Well, I don't know when the voting ends or anything, but I posted it today to my social media. Of course.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's win, man.
Sounds good, man. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thank you.